Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are still working on King Lear, and today we get to hear from King Lear and a little squidge from the Fool in Act 3, Scene 2. And the reason why I threw in the little bit of the Fool is because technically this first little bit, actually, are either of these pieces? I don't know that either of these pieces by themselves is long enough to be a monologue, but King Lear isn't really paying attention what the Fool is saying, so it kind of is a monologue. And also these are just some of the most famous words from King Lear, so I wanted to do them. So what's going on? Lear was at Gloucester's house where his two daughters that he's still talking to, Regan and Goneril, ganged up on him and told him that he is really not welcome at either of their houses unless he gets rid of all 100 men that he said that he wanted to keep in his retirement, these men that were with him. So he flew off the handle and he cursed both daughters and said that he was going to rain down such horrible things that he didn't know what they were yet, but they were going to be the terrors of the earth. And then he says to the Fool, "Oh, fool, I might go mad," and goes out into the storm because there's a really bad storm happening right now. And the Fool and Kent kind of go after him, but Regan and Goneril shut up the house against him and say they're not going to let him back in, and Cornwall and Albany agree they're not going to let him back in. And then in Act 3, Scene 1, we found out that Cornwall and Albany are actually, they don't like each other very much. They're sort of on the brink of war, and it's probably because they've each been given half the kingdom, but they would rather have the whole thing. So Act 3, Scene 2, we start out, we're back out in the storm, and King Lear opens the scene by saying, "Blow, winds, and crack your cheeks! Rage! Blow, you cataracts and hurricanes spout till you have drenched our steeples, drowned the cocks! You sulphurous and thought-executing fires, vaunt couriers of oak-cleaving thunderbolts, singe my white head! And thou, all-shaking thunder, strike flat the thick rotundity of the world! Crack nature's molds, all germain spill at once that makes ingrateful man! Oh, nuncle, court holy water in a dry house is better than this rain water out of door. Good nuncle, in, ask thy daughter's blessing. Here's a knight pities neither wise men nor fools. Rumble thy belly full, spit fire, spout rain, nor rain, wind, thunder, fire are my daughters. I tax not you, you elements with unkindness. I never gave you kingdom, called you children. You owe me no subscription. Then let fall your horrible pleasure. Here I stand, your slave, a poor, infirm, weak, and despised old man. But yet I call you servile ministers, that will with two pernicious daughters join your high engendered battles against a head so old and white as this. Oh, 'tis foul!" So Lear's not well. Is basically what's going on here. When I played Lear, the way that I took this is, he was a king for most of his life, and people listened to what he said and did what he wanted them to do and all that sort of thing. And now nothing is going his way. He doesn't have his men anymore. He doesn't have his daughters anymore. He banished his youngest daughter, who actually probably loved him best and who he definitely loved best. And the daughters that he thought he could rely on have just shut him out in the storm. He's lost everything, which for a king who thought he was doing the right thing is devastating. So he goes out into the storm and tries to control the storm and control the weather just so he can control something. I don't know if you ever did that thing where like you're bowling and you see that you're about to hit a gutter ball and you're like, "Oh, it's in the gutter," just so that it looks like you called the thing that was going to happen, but the thing was going to happen anyway. So that's to me what this whole thing felt like. But then he has that moment where he has a little bit of a heart-to-heart with the elements and says, you don't owe me anything, versus, and this is going to become a big thing a little bit later, versus his daughters who do owe him so much. so he invites the storm. I also think is a bit of a distraction from what's going on. You know, that whole physical pain can help you not think about mental pain. But he is still angry at the weather because it's adding to the mental pain that he feels right now. His daughters kicked him out in a storm. If his daughters had kicked him out and it was a nice sunny day and he could just go for a stroll, things might feel differently, but they don't. And the storm is just making things worse for him right now. So even though the storm owes him nothing, he's angry at it. And the Fool in the middle of that is trying to get him to come inside because the storm is really bad. So we have this sort of crazy pontificating and this very concrete, you're going to die out here in this storm thing going on. And Lear really just isn't listening to the Fool. And then Kent comes in and is like, what's going on here? And the Fool's like, we need to get him inside. And Kent's like, we need to get him inside. But Lear's not quite done yet. And we get to hear a little bit more of his craziness tomorrow. So I will see you then for that. Mwah.